Afternoon, Austin, and welcome back. The Atheist Experience is live August 4th, 2002. I'm your host, Martin Wagner. My co-host is Mr. Ashley Perrien.
Yes, we do know what we're doing.
Forgot to mic up there, didn't you, Ashley?
Whatever.
We're so professional.
Yeah, we know what we're doing.
And our guest today on the show is Andy Roberts. Welcome on the show.
Thank you.
Okay. ACA is a nonprofit educational organization promoting positive atheism and the separation of church and state. We hold weekly meetings every Sunday morning at 10:30 a.m. at Hot Jumbo Bagels, which is located downtown at 307 West 5th Street between Guadalupe and Lavaca, except for the first Sunday of each month when we have our lecture series at the Longhorn Room of First Cafeteria in North Cross Mall. Starts about 11 o'clock. Today being the first Sunday in August, we were supposed to have a lecture series today, but as I understand, it was a non-starter. The scheduled speaker didn't turn up.
Yeah, the guy was actually delayed up in Dallas. Flight was delayed and then canceled. And
okay.
So
well, maybe that...
hopefully going to reschedule.
Maybe that will reschedule. Our speaker was meant to be Jason Crudur, who is a practitioner of something called neuro-linguistic programming.
Yep.
And it should be an interesting talk, specifically. I wonder if he knows that he was about to speak to a group of hard-bitten skeptics.
Yes.
Because, we have some questions for him. Because, anyway. So, we'll see if that happens in September instead. It'll be fun. Among many delightful ACA events are Godless Gamers. That's Monday evening, about 7:30 p.m., not a.m. Boy, Russell would have a thing or two to say about that.
Energy.
7:30, about 7, actually it's 7 p.m. at home of Russell and Virginia Glasser. That's all kinds of fun, as is Atheist Happy Hour, which takes place at about 7:30 p.m. or 8-ish. Whenever people turn up, people tend to trickle in all evening long. And that's Thursday evenings at Antonio's Tex-Mex, which is near the Highway 183 and Interstate 35 intersection. Lots of yummy food there. The Nonprofits is our weekly internet radio broadcast, which plays every Saturday afternoon at 2 p.m. at the atheistnetwork.com website. Your web browser will need the Real Player plug-in to hear the audio stream, and there is a live chat room feature that you can use to interact with the show. Yesterday afternoon, there was not a Nonprofits, a live Nonprofits, because producer Russell Glasser had a family member move back into town, and so they were doing that stuff. But ordinarily, the show is hosted by Jeff D., co-hosted by Mary McManamy and Vic Farrow and Russell, and it's all kinds of fun to listen to. And on our website, on the radio show page, there are archived episodes, past episodes to hear. So, events coming up. Of course, the first anniversary of September 11th is about to happen, and secularmemorials.org is a webpage we think masterminded by American Atheists, with whom our organization is not affiliated. But they are encouraging, of course, atheists and freethinker groups around the country on September 11th to make sure to have public secular memorials for the victims of September 11th, 2001. We know, of course, that is going to be a big day of remembrance, and of course, many of the most high-profile memorials, particularly those attended by grandstanding politicians, are going to be chock full of religious ceremony, and that's fine. I mean, and religious Americans, we know will remember the date in that manner, but of course, for secular citizens, we want there to be public memorials as well. And I know that our group is going to be hosting one. As soon as we know details about that, we will relate them to you, and we better get cracking on that, so we'll have time to announce it.
That's mostly what we did this morning.
Okay, good.
Since the speaker didn't show up, we had, we just talked about that and what we should do and where to have it and stuff like that.
But any firm decisions yet?
No.
Okay, well, I'm sure there will be some before too very long. Okay, and November 2nd is still the planned date for the Godless Americans March on Washington. This is another American Atheists machinated event, but this ought to be all kinds of fun, and more and more of us are talking seriously about actually trying to get out there. If nothing else, it'll be a terrific vacation. Even though it's November in Washington, D.C., when it's starting to get just a teeny bit nippy. But hey, I think it'll be a worthwhile thing to do. And we're encouraging, of course, unbelievers to maybe try to make the trip, and hopefully nationwide there will be at least a good, significant group of folks wanting to come on out there. And you can find more information about that at godlessamericans.org. Okay, I think that does it for announcements. More or less, anything I've forgotten? Other than to welcome back, of course, to Austin, Arlo Pignati, our favorite sound effects guy and Christian paraphernalia collector. He's back here with Gundega, his wife. Hi, and they're in our studio audience. And we're so happy you're here. And they had a terrific barbecue yesterday afternoon out by the lake.
Wish I could have gone.
Yeah, it was a great house out by the lake, and just ate lots of unhealthy food. And, lovely day.
What better way to spend a Saturday?
Yeah, so it was wonderful. But okay, that does it for me. Ashley, what have you got for us?
I've got a couple quick news stories here. 2 of them leading up to a main one.
Okay.
First one here: Bakersfield City Hall displays motto "In God We Trust." City Council members plan to hold a ceremony in City Hall Tuesday night to formally dedicate the words "In God We Trust," mounted above the city seal last week. Basically what it is, Bakersfield City Hall, they have a new plaque above this town seal saying "In God We Trust." And they're having a dedication and everything to it. Mike Miller, who helped bring together Native Americans, Muslims, Skis, Jews, Mormons, and Buddhists for the dedication ceremony, said he still opposes the word God on a government building, but in America, the majority rules. It's a democracy, said Miller.
Okay. I think he has a bit of a confusion there.
Yes, there are a couple things with this I don't understand. Is he for or against it, number one? Yeah. And 2, a democracy. Well, I always have to go back to what Manda says on this. Democracy is not 2 sheep and a wolf deciding what's for lunch.
Other way around. 2 wolves and a sheep.
2 wolves and a sheep. Yeah, I know what I'm doing.
But the most important question is, okay, when you have the law of the land, it's the law of the land. Okay, yes. And the majority just can't decide to violate the law.
Yeah.
Okay, the Constitution says no commingling of religion and government.
Yeah.
Okay, it's very clear in the Constitution. So if you have a religious statement carved into a government building or mounted on or whatever, that is unconstitutional. Doesn't matter what the majority thinks.
Even if the majority wants to put it there, that doesn't give them the right.
Yeah, but anyway.
So that's that one quickly.
Yeah, and of course, but that does not in any way prohibit private citizens from having "In God We Trust" all over their homes and wearing "In God We Trust" T-shirts.
Every single store, house, and everything in this whole town could have "In God We Trust," 10 Commandments, and "God Bless America."
See, this is the big distortion that the religious right likes to put out. Okay, that anytime one of these challenges arises, they want to make it sound like it's a bunch of evil, liberal, commie, long-haired lunatics. Trying to stamp God out of America totally. And it's like, no. Because what it is it's trying to prevent the government from saying, we favor this group's faith over all the other faiths. Yeah. We think you're special and entitled to special rights more so than everyone else in America. That's what it's about. And in a way, I'm not wondering if we maybe helped them with that image, because usually it's called public land. You can't have a 10 Commandments 10 Commandments monument on public land, meaning government property. They just take this, hey, public land, let's take that and run with it. Yeah, I mean, so public meaning anything that's not inside of your closet is public. And so your front lawn is public land. Well, not really. No, it's not. Your front lawn is your private property. Right. So we just don't want this stuff on government property. You can put it 10 feet over on the church's property or your own front yard as much as you want. I'm getting back to that something else Amanda said. That quote was that Jesus did that? Oh, no. What she said at one point that I thought was particularly astute was that even if democracy were 2 wolves and a sheep trying to decide what's for dinner, the Constitution is the document that says it ain't going to be the sheep. So, all right, what else? Okay, board members argue over posting of 10 tenants. Boy, our board gets into more trouble. Oh, not our board. No, not the board. Not us. Okay. 2 new Hanover County Board of Education members trade barbs Tuesday during a debate about how historical documents, including the 10 Commandments, would be displayed in schools. The discussion centered on whether a proposal puts more emphasis on the 10 Commandments than on other documents.
Mr. Hayes wants each commandment to be followed by a law based on that tenet, which I'd really like to see them do with the first couple ones.
First 4.
Yeah, I mean...
The first 4.
Yeah, thou shalt have no gods before me.
Yeah.
What law do we have that is based on that one?
Well, and let's, not take the Lord God's name in vain. That's one. What law do we have?
I don't know if they're blasphemy law or...
Not making any graven images. Yeah. What is the law? But then again, okay, you can also point to what predates the Ten Commandments, which is Hammurabi's Code.
Yes.
Okay, which is where we also, all of civilization around the world, are, except of course for the Far East, but Western civilization in general, we get a lot from that.
Yeah.
And then there are other pre-Christian pagan traditions from Europe and around that had their own laws that predated this early Judaism and their Ten Commandments. So.
Yeah. In addition to the biblical laws, Mr. Hayes said that displays should include the preamble to the North Carolina Constitution, the Mecklenburg Declaration, the Halifax Resolves, the Magna Carta, Mayflower Compact, First Amendment, Declaration of Independence, and the U.S. Constitution.
Again, that's their ploy for sneaking these overtly religious
let's have
postings.
all these ones that are based on the U.S. Constitution and U.S. government.
Well, they want to make it part of a historical, museum piece.
Yeah.
And that's how they can slip it in.
Yeah. But they want to slip in the First Amendment next to the Ten Commandments.
Yes, did your irony meter just explode?
And the one that all this is leading up to.
Okay.
Constitutional amendment to protect the pledge officially underway.
Okay, now wait. The term protect pledge is whose language? Okay, because you're getting this. Where are you getting this report from? Let's make sure that we...
Oh, yes. This is the Agape, I think you said. It's called the Agape Press, which is a Christian news service.
So that hence the language.
Of course.
Yeah.
So, a major effort is underway to protect the Pledge of Allegiance and the national motto through a proposed new constitutional amendment. The effort was announced yesterday on Capitol Hill by Congressman Chip Pickering of Mississippi, and this was July 26th, so...
Okay.
AFA's website is receiving thousands upon thousands of online registrants to the We Pledge campaign calling for the constitutional amendment. It is quickly becoming one of the most effective ways for citizens to voice their concern to Congress on this important issue. Pennsylvania Republican Joe Pitts was at the Capitol Hill press conference Tuesday when the amendment effort was unveiled. He said the purpose is obvious. This amendment, he said, will clarify the Constitution and will reestablish its original meaning and intent, at least as far as the pledge and motto go.
Wait, what does he think was the original meaning and intent?
Well, he does at least add, and this we got to give him credit for at least saying, at least as far as the pledge and the motto go.
Okay, but I mean, what does he mean ultimately?
I would assume he's basically saying that this is a Christian nation and these are Christian values and we have to put them back in place and protect them. And
that's a big steaming load.
Yes.
Right.
Republican Robert Hayes of North Carolina declared this congressional action is necessary. There are times, unfortunately, Hayes said, when the Congress has to stand up and refresh the memories of the judiciary and the bureaucrats and protect our godly heritage.
Okay, history lesson time.
Our founding fathers knew what they were doing when they established this country on Christian principles.
All right.
According to
keep
Hayes,
going. I'm preparing.
Okay. According to Hayes, we need the amendment to remind us that we are endowed with all that we have by our Creator and not by the government.
Okay, John Adams, Treaty of Tripoli, Article 11, dated 1797. The government of the United States is not in any sense founded on the Christian religion. Thomas Jefferson, the Christian God can easily be pictured as virtually the same God as the many ancient gods of past civilizations. The Christian God is a three-headed monster, cruel, vengeful, and capricious. If one wishes to know more of this raging three-headed beast-like God, one only needs to look at the caliber of people who say they serve him. They are always of two classes, fools and hypocrites. Also later on, Thomas Jefferson writing to John Adams, it is not to be understood that I am with him, meaning Jesus, in all his doctrines. I am a materialist. Clearly, and here's one more. I like this one. Ben Franklin, who was theistic, but he says, I cannot conceive otherwise than that he, the infinite Father, expects or requires no worship or praise from us, but that he is even infinitely above it. So he was expressing a deistic belief there.
Yep.
And then there's Thomas Jefferson's letter to the Danbury Baptists, and there's this great big 5-page article that I wish I could read all the way through, but I just can't.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Didn't even the Founding Fathers refuse to pray before each day of the Constitutional Convention?
That's right.
Yep. Well, and they actually went into that in that document, I think.
Yeah, it was tabled, it was allowed to die without a vote twice. It was proposed twice, and it was allowed to die without a vote twice. It's proposal that they begin their sessions with prayer.
Yeah.
And they didn't. They did not begin their sessions with prayer. Now, this is not to say, of course, that the Founding Fathers weren't Christian, and that the Founding Fathers didn't want to have any sort of Christianity of any type.
No, I'm sure some of them were.
They just didn't want it in the government.
Precisely.
Exactly.
Precisely.
And I tried to do some research to find out exactly what this amendment was going to say, and there's absolutely nothing on it. It's just on the site and everything, it's just like, we have one, but, we're not going to tell you what it is.
They don't actually have the text of this proposed amendment?
No.
Yeah.
Now, maybe they're still bickering about it and trying to get it all in order, but for whatever reason, they don't have it. But just the plain hypocrisy of it all just floored me.
Yeah.
On the actual site, the propose of We Pledge campaign, they go through and say why we need this and everything. There is the line, we must preserve our freedom from our children by making our rights a part of the Constitution, and thus protecting us from liberal judges who want to impose their will on the majority.
Newsflash, the Constitution grants you all of the religious rights you could possibly want to have. Unless, of course, you think one of your rights as a religious person is that you get to use the power of the government and the laws of the land to cram your religion down other people's throats.
Or in other words,
that's not one of your rights.
Or in other words, impose their will on the majority.
Yeah.
Take this and ram it down everyone else's throat.
These guys are masters of projection. Okay. So they think
they're living in an alternate universe.
I don't understand why it is they think that just not having the words under God in the pledge in any way inhibits their ability to practice their religion as they have done all their lives.
Yep.
The only thing that I can see that having the under God out of the pledge inhibits is people who don't acknowledge the existence of a God, or who may happen to acknowledge the kind of God that isn't Judeo-Christian in nature, from being forced to violate their own consciences and make a religious statement that they don't agree with.
You've got to tie allegiance to this country.
I mean, what rights do they think that they have that are threatened by this? Do they think that if you take under God out of the pledge, suddenly that means they won't allow to go to church anymore? They weren't allowed to listen to dippy Christian pop music anymore? What do they think is threatened? What I really want to know.
That apparently is what they're thinking, yes.
I mean, they think that they have rights that are threatened. I would like to know what those rights are specifically that are threatened.
Your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah.
I did not see anything.
Well, I'll tell you what my guess is. My guess is that this is a bunch of people in the Christian right who think that they are deserving of more rights than everyone else.
Of course.
That they are the people in the Christian right think they are better than everyone.
Yeah.
Okay.
They want to say under God in the pledge, but they do not want to say in Allah we trust on our money.
Right.
They would not allow something like that.
We're the majority faith. That means we are more entitled than everyone else.
Exactly. We can have our God and our religion here.
They just want.
But they're not going to give equal time to every other religion, of course.
Right. Well, we can get very easily more and more steamed about that. But this is why. But there are voices on the other side of, actually respecting religious freedom as the Constitution intends it, who are making headway. And this week, we had a guy, Van Orton, I do believe, who spoke here in town. He has filed suit to have the 10 Commandments monument that is on the Texas Capitol lawn, the one that has 11 commandments on it, removed for being a violation. And apparently there's a hearing Monday morning. And anybody go to that, by the way? That was like bright and early at 6.
Michelle.
Yeah, there was Michelle and somebody else went. I can't remember.
I don't know who else went. I know Michelle was there, though.
Yeah, she says she went. Then she said she had to leave after a while. But,
but said that it was really good. He was doing a really good job of making his case, and the judge was...
Michelle, if you're watching the program today, call us up and tell us what it was like, please. But anyway, what happened was the Austin American Statesman, our lovely... representatives from the 4th Estate here in Austin, they outdid themselves this week. They had 2 dippy editorials in a row, like days apart, from on the subject of, the first one was just on the subject of religious faith in general. Okay. There's an editorial about the Pope canonizing this guy in Mexico, Juan Diego.
Yeah.
And many people say, well, did this guy even exist? And the Statesman had this really weird editorial, essentially extolling the virtues of believing in stuff, whether or not it's true, because I guess it just it makes people it's just a good thing, you know.
Yeah.
And I think the final statement of the editorial was that the Pope canonizing Juan Diego proves that faith is good because it can have an effect on history. And I wrote a letter in, which they didn't print.
Now remember, this is in a newspaper, people.
Yeah. My letter said, September 11th showed us that faith can have an impact on history. That probably hit a little closer. But on the following day, wouldn't you know, they had another editorial, and their editorial on a Thursday, I believe it was, August 1st, was pooping on this guy, Van Orden, who is trying to have, get the Ten Commandments removed for perfectly sound constitutional reasons. And their argument was, this guy is just a pain in the butt, and what does the Ten Commandments monument hurt anyway? It's up there, and if you're offended by it, you just don't have to look at it.
Yeah.
Okay, that was their argument. Now, this is an argument that is so colossally stupid. Well, first off, if you're talking about private property, then it can be a sound argument to say, hey, if you don't like it, you don't have to look if it offends you, right? In your house, or on your lawn, on your public property. If you have a house and you want it, you can do pretty much anything, as long as it's not openly illegal. Like you can't set up a meth lab or something. But if you want to put up a cross or a Ten Commandments plaque on your front yard, you can do that under the Constitution. If your neighbor's offended by it, you can just go, tough, dude.
Yeah.
It's my First Amendment free. This is my private property.
Yes.
I'm not breaking the law, and I'm within my rights. So that's private property. Public land, government, taxpayer-funded land, it's a different matter.
Yeah.
And here's what you have to... Either we have to have... If you're going to have the religious document from one faith up there, you've either got to have others...
Yeah.
As we saw last week with the Summum sect in Ogden, Utah.
Very strange.
That was wild. I'm dying to have a follow-up on that to see if that actually goes up.
Yeah.
In Ogden, Utah, there is this really kooky bunch of, pyramid power types called Summum. And, these guys are cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. But their website has all of their, they're just whatever. It's all ancient Egyptian stuff. Mixed with weird, bizarre, psychosexual ideas about God. And they want to have their 7 aphorisms on the Ogden, Utah City Hall lawn, right next to the Ten Commandments monument. And an appellate court judge said, you
gotta do it.
Gotta do it. Well, either going to have that, or the more practical thing is, look, you just do not have religious monuments on public land, because then you're always going to get into that iffy, dodgy area of playing favorites with one faith over the other. And just pleased to know, just a little pat myself on the back, the Statesman, they printed, today's paper had 4 letters on the Ten Commandments monument subject, one of which was mine. And of the 4 letters, only one of them was pro-monument.
And I assume that wasn't yours.
Got it in one. No, the one that was pro was from some dippy woman who, again, reiterated this argument, if it offends you, don't look at it.
Yeah.
Well, how would you feel about a big, fat, smiling statue of the Buddha? Or here's another one. How about a giant pornographic photograph? Let's have
if you don't like it, just look away.
Yeah. And we'll put it on the Capitol ground, on public land, and blow it up to 20 feet by 20 feet.
Let's see what Clinton actually did.
And nobody's forcing you to look at it if it offends you. So, anyway. But at least, I'm pleased that 3 out of 4 letters in today's Statesman were move the monument sentiment. So that's kind of cool. And this is my first letter in the Statesman. I've had a lot of letters to the editor printed in other... But it does show that there is actually this groundswell of people... who are resisting this attempt by the religious right, the Christian right, to encroach upon the rights of all citizens, and we're not remaining silent. And just so more and more people, fire up those those emails, and get those letters out there.
Getting them out.
Okay, before we get into calls, I'm going to tell one thing more. We want to introduce our guest, Andy Roberts, and you're one of our... First off, it's your birthday today, right?
Yes.
High five to you. Right. You're one of our UT student members.
Yes.
Okay. And you were on the show today because you want to talk about what?
Women.
Something last week's show, right?
Yeah, last week someone called in talking about how women tend to be the minority in atheist groups. And they were, like, why is that? And there's a lot of reasons behind that. Now, I wanted to do research on it this week, but I didn't have time, so I can only speak from my personal experience. But going down to women, I think, tend to not be atheists as much as men anyway, because, like, in schools, girls in school aren't encouraged to think the way that boys are. I mean, I can remember being in, like, 3rd grade, and we finally got this cool computer in the classroom, but none of the girls were ever allowed to type on the keyboard. They'd have the boys...
They weren't allowed?
We would be computer time. One of the boys would be called to sit in front of the keyboard, and all the girls had to crowd around and watch the boy play with the computer. There were more girls in that classroom.
And did you ask your teacher, Kay, can I sit down and have time?
Well, the kid who usually did it was a kid named Andy too, and he'd be like, "No, that's Andy's thing."
It's his job.
Yeah.
Andy with a Y gets to do it, and Andy with an I does not. Yeah.
All the girls had to just stand around and watch it.
Well, were other boys apart from Andy with a Y allowed to?
The other boys in the classroom were people you don't want touching anything, though.
Okay, I'm gonna
They were
not go there.
troublemakers.
Right. Okay.
But we were...
But do you think they would have been allowed to had they asked?
Might have. Just depending on if they were being good that day or not.
Okay, but you were saying that you and maybe other girls in the class were asking, and the teacher was saying, no, he does that.
Yeah.
That's his job.
Okay.
So, and then there's, growing up, I was really, really lucky on this, that my family's very understanding that I'm a tomboy. But when growing up, my friends' families would like freak out because, the boys could go out and explore and do all the stuff they want to do. And it's just like, oh, boys will be boys. I go out there with them, and my friends' families are like, you're not acting like a proper young lady. Girls are supposed to sit at home and play with their dolls and not explore. Like, no, I'm going out there in the mud with them. But my family was never bad about that. My family loved it. My mom would buy me camos when I was like in 5th grade and stuff. But like it would freak out everybody else.
Our little militant.
But boys are just in general allowed to explore. It's okay for a boy
they're
to
encouraged to
explore and learn and and do things for themselves. But girls are just to this certain social stereotype, and if you break that, you're a freak.
Yeah. And boys, and growing up, they're more encouraged to be career-minded than women in general.
And that's probably, the computers, he got to play with the computer because he might need that in his career.
Right.
But you're supposed to stay at home and be barefoot and pregnant.
So then the tendency towards perhaps women being more inclined towards religious belief than men is all part and parcel of attempting to shoehorn women just into strictly traditional roles in all cases.
I can't say in all cases, but from what I've seen in my experience.
Generally speaking.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is actually the strange thing in my family, because it was actually my dad that was the more religious one. He's the one who goes to church every weekend and brought me along and everything like that. My mom didn't go. So, unusual household.
Right. So. Arla's mom and grandmom, who were at the party yesterday. Hi, hello. Very charming, ladies. Arla's mom's boyfriend comes from a family where his father is profoundly religious and his mom's an atheist. But apparently they've been married 40 years. Of some odd reason, it hasn't caused any strange conflict, as you would expect to happen. And so what happened is now the guy who's the son who's Arla's mom's boyfriend, is the atheist son. And his brother, they have 2 boys. His brother is the profoundly religious son. So it's like dad got one kid, and mom got the other. And I just thought that's kind of interesting too. Well, that's not surprising though when you think about it. I mean, one of the things that traditional Christianity promotes is this whole patriarchal family structure that's very authoritarian in many ways. And so it doesn't surprise me that, in families, at least, older generation now, you're going to have dad kind of being the... And there was an attempt to move back to that in the 90s, wasn't there? There was this thing called the Promise Keepers.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Which was this group of Christian men.
We've gotten much hilarity from them.
Whose whole thing was basically, all these nasty feminists are poisoning our wives' minds. We need to do something about this.
Keep them submissive and under
it's all about
control.
taking
Tell them
back
what
control.
to think.
Exactly. Under the guise of, we all love our wives. And
we want to protect you.
My mom's church does that.
They do the Promise Keepers thing?
Yes.
Now, as I understand, it's kind of fading out. There was like this period in the mid-'90s when it first started. It was huge, gigantic, stadium rallies they would have, after which a lot of these guys apparently would go to topless bars. After a whole afternoon of wife honoring, they would go and But as I understand, towards the end of the 90s, then the membership, the attendance began to really strongly taper off. So it could have just been this fad that people like to belong to things and like to feel they're part of a group. And
I think it's going pretty strong at my mom's church still. Of course, I haven't really been to my mom's church in a few years.
Yeah. Now, about a year or so ago, we had one of our other women members of the group, Laura, I think it was on, and she talked about the same subject. And her speculation was also that women probably face stronger consequences as a result of society's preconceived ideas, because if it's found out that a woman is an atheist, there will be all this assumption that, then you can't be a good mother, and there are all these other negatives that are attached.
Oh, and, women, like, what I work, I like to work and work with my hands and really do physical work. I don't like sitting behind a desk. And in the stuff I do, I have to work twice as hard as it is because, I walk up to a job and they hire a guy in the same day. They're expecting that guy to do something and me to be, we're just hiring her to, look good. And so I have to work twice as hard. I have to work twice as hard to prove myself as it is.
Right.
Yeah.
And so if they knew I was atheist, not only is she a girl, but, she has no morals.
Yeah, another strike against you.
All those stereotypes.
Yeah.
So, wow. Yeah, well, this hidebound traditional thinking is generally shown not to be good for many people. Huh. Interesting. Well, anything else you'd like to share before we... this is a live call-in program, by the way. And before we go to our calls, I just wanted to also announce that our lovely website at atheist-community.org is where you can go to find out more information about our group. We can kick that website address up on the screen. Thank you, Stephen. And we got... and so before we open up the floor to phones... we had a couple of post-show questions that some viewers asked. Here's one. Christianity has... what is your basis for anti-Christianity? Not quite. Christianity has a basis in the Bible. What is your basis? Well, whoever this fellow was, there were two guys. Michelle forwarded these to me. Well, atheism is a skeptical response to the claims of Christianity. Okay? Our view is that Christians have not met their burden of proof for their religious claims. And as far as the Bible goes, there's plenty of scholarship out there to cast doubt upon the validity of the Bible as a historical document. And of course, you can read the Bible yourself and pick out numerous inconsistencies and contradictions therein. So, until Christians prove that their God exists, there will be valid reasons to disbelieve. So that's our basis. And the other question
But we are not specifically anti-Christian.
Oh, that's right.
No. My best friend's a Catholic, goes to church every Sunday, and we get along great. I don't mind his religion, and he doesn't mind my non-religion.
My parents, I'm very close to them. But, we have...
Just the ending of our show. We don't hate them. We just think they're wrong.
And the second question was, if they can't rule out the possibility of a deist God, why do they define themselves as an atheist? Well, remember, atheism is disbelief. And you have to remember, not ruling out the possibility, not being able to rule out the possibility of something does not then make it a valid reason to go ahead and believe in that thing. I cannot rule out the possibility that the planet Neptune is inhabited by flying purple rabbits. But do I believe that there are flying purple rabbits on the surface of Neptune? No. Why not? No evidence. So until you have good, solid evidence for a claim, there's no valid reason to go ahead and believe that claim. Now, as far as a deist guy, and for those of you who viewers are not clear on what the difference between deism and Christianity, deism is this belief that says, God created the universe, but then he went away and is off doing other God stuff. So deism is a belief in a creator God, but not like the Christian God who is actively involved in people's lives. The deism says, no, God does not
I think a watchmaker is a similar for that. You make the watch, you wind it up, and it just goes.
So, but whatever kind of supernatural creative entity it is that you're proposing, again, you're going to have to present the evidence for it and meet your burden of proof. And at that point, we'll either believe or not. But whatever kind of God you're promoting, that's the deal. Whether it's the deist God, the Christian God, Zeus, whatever. If you have evidence to present for that claim, present it. So there we are. Right. Okay. So that answers the older calls, and we now have some calls on the line. So shall we go ahead and take them? Yeah, we have Tim on line 1. Let's just get this show on the road. Tim?
Yes.
Hi, you're on TV. Give us a second to turn your volume up. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Martin.
How you doing?
Happy birthday, Andy.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I just wanted to go ahead and give you a little bit of news that we had one of our members who went through the U.S. citizenship swearing-in ceremony last week.
Oh, that's right.
I don't know if you heard about this, but I heard this secondhand, so if I get a little bit of it wrong, I apologize.
Okay.
But apparently they had a Christian minister say a prayer and give a sermon, and they led the Pledge of Allegiance with the way Texans still do it, with the words "under God" in it.
Oh.
Okay, this is a swearing-in ceremony for U.S. citizens, and it was even at the LBJ School of Public Affairs on the UT campus. I just think that's outrageous that we have that level of religious ceremony placed in something that has nothing to do with religion, our U.S. citizenship.
Yeah, right. Having some phone sound problems again. Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's really despicable. And because presumably we welcome people, regardless of their creed, into our country if they want to be citizens and go through the procedure that it takes to become a citizen. Your particular belief system shouldn't matter. You can be a UFO believer. You can be an atheist. You can be whatever you want. And so to require these people to listen to specific Christian prayers and Christian ceremonial activities as part of their swearing-in ceremony, I think is discriminatory and should be looked into. So so what did I don't know if Tim, if you're on the air anymore. So I don't know what can be done about that, and do you know what this particular member of our group did?
No, I don't. I didn't actually talk to her, but I think she just sat there and went ahead and went through it. I don't know whether or not the swearing in, the oath, taking the oath of the swearing in part happened before or afterwards. Mm-hmm. If it happened afterwards, then I would imagine that she probably didn't make waves about it, but I really want to talk to her about it next time.
I mean, it would, you could very well make waves about it at the time. It would be really awkward.
Yeah, I'd meant to actually find out about how it all went and everything, because I knew that she was going to go through with this, and I was completely spaced on it, completely forgot about it the next day, so. But yeah, I meant to ask.
I think we should look into it and go ahead and see if those ceremonies are publicly viewable. If they are, then I think we need to make it a point to go to them and see if they do this at other ceremonies. And if so, we need to write to our Congress people and whomever is in charge of it and let them know that we aren't going to stand up for this.
Yeah. I think I fully agree with you on that, Tim, and I appreciate you bringing this to light here on the show today.
Yeah.
Excellent.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
Thanks, Colin.
That's not good.
No.
Yeah. I even thought about that when we were talking about it the night before she was going to get sworn in, and I was just wondering, if they would have anything like that.
So she was concerned that, I may have to.
Yeah, if there was going to be, something going on, I don't know.
And apparently there was.
So,
in a major way.
Yeah.
So not good at all. Oh well. Okay. Well, I agree with Tim. I think that we should look into it, and I assume that it would be common practice if it happened then. There's no reason to assume that it doesn't happen at other swearing-in ceremonies. Yeah. And if it does, then we kind of need to get on the horn and check the legality and the constitutionality of this.
Yeah, because that's not good.
Yeah, absolutely. These things are allowed to continue to happen and to thrive because simply no one stands up and says, hello, it's not fair, and it's not right under the Constitution.
Yeah. And when you've got a group of 100 people there or something like that, it's really hard to make a wave.
Yeah, I know. And especially if you're in the awkward position, well, I'm trying to become a citizen of this country.
Exactly.
I'm going to start a fight before they
let's
swear
cause
me
problems.
in.
Probably not good timing to start a big argument.
Hello.
Yeah. Because they could always argue, we got you, Because until they swear you in, you don't actually have constitutional rights until you're a citizen. So before they actually do the thing is probably when they
have the SWAT team in the wings.
Subject to, it's not that serious, but I don't know if some people in power were to get more power, who knows? Yeah. Well, we don't just slippery slope on that, but it's. Hey, this is the atheist experience. You want to know why our show is called this? It has to do with there's this constant pressure at all times that non-believing citizens are faced with to conform to some sort of unproven superstitious belief system that we don't agree with. Yeah. And no tolerance for dissenters. Let's see what Robert has to say about this. Robert, you're on the air.
I heard you guys just a few minutes ago saying how you are atheist because religion hasn't presented you with adequate reason to believe in God. And I was just going to say that, well, religion isn't about convincing you that there is a God. Religion is about believing in something when you don't have an incredible amount of proof. It's about believing in something that you can't see right before your eyes. It's about the experience that that like makes you feel good inside and stuff like that.
Well, in a sense, I know a lot of religions are like that. A lot of religions are,
It's the feel good.
Yeah, and that's why a lot of people in philosophy are critical of religion. That they criticize it as just being this exercise in emotionalism and wish fulfillment. Yeah. But I think that you do point out a very important distinction, and that is that maybe the kinds of people who, like skeptics, insist upon good, hard, strong evidence for things are not going to be the kinds of people whom religion will ultimately appeal to. And there was another recent study that I got some information on just this week, or maybe it was last week. I subscribe to the eSkeptic newsletter. And apparently there have been recent findings that people who have higher levels of a chemical in their brain called dopamine tend to be more inclined towards seeing things that aren't there, as you put it, Robert. Like it's not necessary. It's believing in stuff that you can't necessarily see.
Stuff like that.
There was an experiment studied where they had a group of people who were apparently. I will find out the information on exactly where this took place and bring it next week. Right. It had to do with looking at images where there's not really distinct shapes going on. Yeah. And the people who were the profoundly religious group in the studies, those subjects were able to discern faces in these very indistinct graphic representations. Yeah. So they had, I guess, a higher inclination towards this kind of pattern recognition. Yeah. And skeptics just kind of looked at it and said, oh, well, I see a bunch of squiggly lines or whatever they saw. But then what happened was when there was medication then given to both groups, that increased the dopamine level in the brain. And I assume it was something legal and not like cocaine. But what happened was when the medication was administered, the skeptical group then began to piece out patterns and see faces or see distinct shapes in the graphic images, whereas there was not necessarily an appreciable change in the group of people who are already believers, who are subjects.
It kind of shows there's a plateau or something like that.
It could be a plateau. But what's interesting is that it does seem to indicate, and you can tie this into studies that have been done. There have been a lot of recent books and studies about like the God module in the brain, that there's something with brain physiology that makes people inclined to have these religious and spiritual experiences. Could it be that there is actually a physiological difference between folks who are strong believers and people who are skeptical? So it's interesting.
It's kind of scary, though.
There's experiments that have been done. They found this. It's a specific region in the brain that does this, and it controls certain functions. One of which is
the hippocampus.
I'm not too sure exactly what it is, but it also has to do with repetitive things. So if you're constantly doing the same thing over and over and over and over again, it can kind of shut down that part of the brain. And therefore you get this feeling that you are in the presence of God and such. But they can also do this through electrical means. They can basically put a helmet on, use magnetics to shock that part of the brain, and all of a sudden, hey, I'm with God. Yeah. And they turn it off and he's gone.
A researcher in Canada has developed the helmet that stimulates that area of the hippocampus. It is an area of the hippocampus. So
that dopamine study is kind of scary, though, because, religious right gets a hold of it. Their kid doesn't believe in God. Oh, we know what the problem is. You just need some dopamine.
Well, let's hope it's not that strong. So, let's.
I was thinking about that.
Bush administration reverses stance on legalizing cocaine. News at 11. Well, I don't suspect to see that happen. But who knows? I mean, there could be. I think that there are other factors, though, too.
Yeah.
I think that there's cultural influence. I mean, I was raised in a religious family. But I mean, it's just tradition in American culture. Religion is part of cultural tradition here. Yeah. And so up until I was, about 14, 15, I was a pretty strong Christian, and then I began my period of doubting it all. But So I think that there are other factors, but there could be a physiological factor, and I think it's an interesting field of study that's ongoing.
Yeah. But going back to the main point even about religion being, a feel-good type of thing, that doesn't take away from the fact that if it's not true, if it's being sold as true, that doesn't make it right. I can go to a movie and enjoy myself, even knowing that it's, a complete fabrication, because I know it's a fabrication. They're not selling it to me saying, this is real. Religion does. They're not saying, look, come here for a good time. It's not necessarily real, but it's still a fun time.
That was part of that editorial about Juan Diego. He's like, it doesn't matter if it's true or not. It converted a lot of the natives down here.
Yeah, and made a lot of people happy. And so I don't.
It doesn't matter if it's true.
Yeah.
And alcohol makes you happy.
And right. and also to further enhance the point both of y'all made, which is that. When it begins to create a situation in which certain groups now want to influence American law, okay, then there are further ethical issues that are resolved, because then at that point you can't say, well, who cares if it's true or not? Because then if you want to make laws influencing the lives of not only the members of this religious group, but members of others or members of none, then that raises a further problem. I don't know. So. Or anything? Do you have any opinion on this, Robert?
Well, actually, I don't know. Are you guys against everything that involves not everything, but I mean everything involves church and the Bible? I've got a $1 bill that says "In God We Trust." Are you guys against that? Are you guys against at a trial, witnesses swearing on the Bible?
Yes, I am. I'm against those things because both of those specific things constitute government endorsement of a religious point of view, which the First Amendment makes clear the government can't stick its nose into. I was fortunate, though, in that when I 2 years ago had jury duty, we were given a secular oath to say. So that's a good thing. But in terms of, I don't think you will find any atheist, at least not among our group of folks. I mean, I'm sure there's extremists in every group.
Of course.
Yeah.
But you're not going to find any of us saying, oh, we don't think that people should have the right to believe in whatever they want. I mean, far from it. We fully support the rights of private citizens to engage in whatever belief system they want to engage in.
As long as they don't shove it down our throat, too.
And as long as they don't, if a private citizen wants to come to me and or call this show and engage me in a debate and say, I think you should believe in my God and here's why, then that's First Amendment in action, right? Free speech, and we're having a debate. If they want to pass laws,
that's what I meant.
You've got to say under God as part of your patriotic pledge, or you've got to have this specific sectarian set of rules on a plaque on state land. That's a different matter. Again, private interaction.
It goes back to the difference between public and private. A lot of times it's always positioned as in we don't want religion on public lands. Public meaning government-sponsored lands. If you consider your front lawn public, well then you can put whatever you want up there. But again, as long as the government isn't coming forth and saying, here's God, and here's how you're going to pray, and here's what you're going to pray for, and here's when you're going to pray.
Government's paid for by us.
Exactly.
I fully endorse the fact that you guys, shouldn't have to pay your taxes, and part of that be going to some Ten Commandments presentation on some city hall place.
Just like you, I'm sure you don't want to feel as if you would be obligated to have your taxes pay for something that you felt the government shouldn't be endorsing.
The Summum, 7 aphorisms.
The Summum, 7 aphorisms of telekinesis and whatever they were. I still have my notes here. So that's all. So the fairest way to handle it for everyone is to say, we'll keep religion a private citizen matter, and the government isn't out there playing favorites with anyone, and that's fair. That's what it's all about. So we're very much for the rights of the individual.
Okay. And also, you guys a lot of times chide the Bible about its inconsistencies and stuff. And I was just wondering, when you guys were kids, did you ever play that game? I think it was called Telephone or something like that.
Operator.
In which, all the kids would sit in a circle, and one kid would say something to the next kid's ear, and it would go around like that. And by the time it got back to the first kid, it would be something completely different. I mean, the Bible's been recopied so many times,
That's true.
There have been so many. I mean, and it's gone through the people, a lot of times the people that write, that actually write the Bible, have really strong feelings about something, and they'll put that little spin on the Bible, like whenever it doesn't say something, whenever the Bible might say something they don't like, they might just turn it a little bit. And throughout the past 2,000 years from, when the Bible was first actually written, it's been changed so many times. I'm not, I'd be surprised if it was consistent. I mean,
well, you make an excellent point. Usually when we get on that kick, it tends to be either in response to a caller who is a biblical literalist or fundamentalist who insists that every word of the Bible has to be taken at face value.
Most historically correct document ever.
We've had people say that. We've had say, it's completely consistent. There's no, and then we read the 4 different resurrection accounts in the Gospels, and they're like, oh, well, maybe that part, but the rest.
And with the 4 different accounts, I mean, besides the fact that there were. Besides the fact they've been, copied so many times that they're probably not what was originally written, they were through the eyes of 4 different people. And I think someone, at some point said, all accounts are equally valid. All points of view are equally valid on a given situation.
Well, not on factual things.
Everyone sees something different, through their own eyes.
Yeah, but it's not your opinion of something. All opinions could be valid, but whether or not there is a book on this table is a fact. Yeah. And whether, if he says there is and I say there isn't, he's right, I'm wrong.
Well, the problem there, of course, is that, remember, many Christians believe that, again, the Bible is the inerrant Word of God. It's a divinely inspired document.
Yeah.
Now, I think that in a sense, you can take it to mean that what Christian fundamentalists in particular are telling you is that the Bible itself was more or less dictated by God to the men who wrote the actual books, and so they're getting the word directly from the pipeline of divine inspiration. Now, it would seem to me then that an omniscient God wouldn't make these kinds of mistakes.
Yeah.
Oh, were there 2 women at the tomb or 1? Were the angels inside or outside?
And I've just got to interject here.
Yeah.
The worst explanation I have heard for this ever. I saw this. It was in The Case for Faith, a big Christian apologetics book.
Okay.
The reason that they said is that in one story there's 1 angel, and in one story there's 1, Mary Magdalene or whoever it was. Yeah. In another one there's 2. Well, if you notice, 1, 2 always includes 1. So since there were 2, there was 1. There was just also another 1. They were perfectly serious on that.
Okay.
I could not believe it.
Okay.
That was the level that they would go to try and make this.
So then how did he reconcile, there was either the angels were outside or inside? Because that's another description.
Maybe there was some inside and some outside.
Because this was some kind of cave tomb thing, which was outside.
And the stone was rolled away from the tomb, and at the same time, it wasn't.
Well, the entire time was outside the house, so then you've got that whole take on it.
I'm sorry?
Well, they say outside. Well, you could say that a cave is outside. It's not inside a home.
Exactly.
There you are, too. Right. So, yeah.
If you have to stretch that much to justify it, something's not right.
So, yeah, of course.
But, wow. Well, anything else for us, Robert?
No, that's pretty much it.
Great. Well, we appreciate your call and very much, and good questions. And please feel free to call us back any old time, all right?
Okay, I will.
All right, man. Take care. Okay. Remember that phone number to call us live and give us a piece of your mind is 477-2288. I think I'm what else have we got? We're just going to let some more calls rack up.
Yeah, not too much. I had that one quote in here. Remember the article that you printed out, that 5-page thing?
Yes, about
They had that one article in there that was one quote in there that was just too funny.
Oh.
And it was actually on the second page. I don't know if we've got time. Might as well
this one.
Look through that really quickly. Who was that actually by? I think it's on the first page.
Okay.
It's right at the top.
I do not believe because a man and a woman, who wrote this? Apparently it was...
Thomas Paine.
Thomas Paine. Oh, okay, now Thomas Paine was a famous critic of religion. I do not believe because a man and a woman make a child that it imposes on the Creator the unavoidable obligation of keeping the being so made in eternal existence hereafter. It is in His power to do so or not to do so, and it is not in my power to decide which He will do. So one has this image of God slapping his forehead and going, oh man,
another one.
Another immortal soul. Great. No. But then, of course, the all-powerful God wouldn't have a problem with that. But then, the difference, again, between the Christian God and the deist God, this is what's interesting, is that Deism, it seems to me that Deism would have a bit of a harder time meeting its burden of proof than even Christianity.
Definitely.
At least Christianity has this specific definition of God that it's attempting to promote, and Christianity says God's up there doing stuff all the time. Deism essentially says, well, God created stuff and then he's not around anymore. Or if he is around, he simply has no interest in humanity, exerts no influence over the actions of humanity. At which point you have to say, well, what is the point of deism? Because deism really seems like nothing more than just God of the gaps in the ultimate form. You know, what created the universe? I don't know. I'll say God did. But God doesn't do anything other than that, which already happened. So he does nothing now. Yeah. So at that point, it sort of makes worship and
what's
religion
the point of worship if you couldn't care less?
And so deism seems to me to have, I don't know, less sense to it than an actual established monotheistic religion that you can argue against. Okay, we now have some callers back on the line, so let's see what Mark has to say about all of this. Mark, you're on the air.
Hey, guys, good to talk to you again. I hadn't talked to you in a couple of weeks.
Okay, what's up?
First and foremost, let me preface this by saying if my child starts screaming, I apologize. Because I'm watching him and he's not very happy.
Sorry. Well, you know.
It's all right. I've got actually just a couple comments about, I was listening to early in the broadcast when you're talking about the Constitution, obviously the Pledge of Allegiance and the First Amendment and all that. I think one of the things that we have to understand or remember, and this even holds true when you're trying to interpret the Bible, is that whoever wrote whatever you're studying, you can't make it mean what they never intended it to mean. And so I would say that looking back on what they meant when they established the First Amendment was not to get God out of the government, not to get God out of society, because clearly that wasn't the case. They had to, we talk about prayer in school, and Christians want to get prayer in school. Well, the prayer had always been in school. It's not that we try to get it in, it's always been there.
Well,
in God we trust. These things had always been there when they started. As a matter of fact...
Well, actually, in God we trust was, I think, a 19th century motto. The original motto for our nation was E pluribus unum, which means out of many one. So
which is Trinitarian.
Well,
and under God was actually only added in the 50s. So
right, I understand that. What I'm saying though is,
let me
you look at the foundation of this country. You look at the foundation of schools. Schools were made to teach Scripture. You talk about Thomas.
Wait, what planet does that happen?
Okay. The first school was made to teach Scripture.
Okay, all right.
That's what the first one was, and your quote about Thomas.
And so you're saying that now that is what schools need to be.
No.
Bible indoctrination camps.
No, I have no problem with your understanding of we can't promote or teach a religion in school. I don't have a problem with that.
Okay.
What I have a problem with is we try to blanketly take the First Amendment and say government can't be involved in religion because that's not true. What the First Amendment states, it says that they will make no laws. Establishing a state religion is what they had in mind.
No, it doesn't say state religion. Let me read it to you specifically.
No. I said that's what they did not want. The federal government did not want to have a state religion.
Well, here we go.
As a matter of fact, they wanted it to be up to the states because there were state religions when the Constitution was written.
No. Actually, here's the thing: Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, which means that the government has to keep its nose out of the business entirely.
That's not what it meant.
Wait a minute. What can it possibly mean other than that?
Other than the government would not establish a state religion.
It says respecting it doesn't.
There you go.
Hang on. Let me read to you. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion. So that an establishment of religion clearly implies a religion that's already established an existing religious faith. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof.
Okay,
that means that the government can't say, we're going to say this religion's great, and we're not going to say the same thing about all other religions, and we're not going to give this religion our governmental blessing over others. We're not going to say this is the correct religion to belong to.
That's not what they say.
There are very
there are no laws.
Okay.
Yes, there are very specific quotes from Thomas Jefferson.
Can I read you one thing? Here's a quote from Thomas Jefferson on his memorial.
Yeah, and what I'm going to say is about Tom Jefferson
gave us liberty. Can the liberties of a nation remain secure when we have removed a conviction that these liberties are a gift from God?
Yeah. He also said that religion is something to be private between the person and their God.
Can't be private.
It is absolutely
Wait a minute,
nothing.
hang on, wait. Religion can't be private?
No. It is
How?
not just
How explain
The
that?
Bible says it
let me
should
Hang
be
on, one
private.
at a time. It's not crosstalk.
Let me explain that. The reason that their religion is not just a private matter because religion is who I am. It enables me to have the morals that I have, the beliefs that I have, how I treat other people. It's who I am.
Well, good for you, but not everybody does it the same way. Not everybody has your religion, and you can't use the laws of this land to say, my way of doing it's right, so I'm going to make everybody else do it that way.
I agree.
And that is what
I would never want a law saying you had to be a Christian or you had to pray to Jesus. But
and guess what? That is what the First Amendment prevents specifically.
I agree.
The government it cannot.
Having people say under God in a pledge is not a law. You don't have to say it. So
Having the government say
everything as First Amendment. And the reason I said it's not just religion is not just a private thing is I think back to Ashley, what you said last week. You had a quote. You said, "We're nothing more than chemical reactions." Here's the problem with that. If we're nothing more than chemical reactions, you are not accountable for anything. Whatever you
Who says? Wait a minute.
Hang on.
Oh boy.
Quit it.
Not this
I am
idiocy
accountable to the police, the government, to Martin, Andy, everybody else in the studio. I am accountable to every single one of them.
Why?
Okay.
Because if I piss them off, they can come over and whack me.
Let's
I
calm down.
agree with that. But
Hang on.
You can't control it. If you're just a chemical reaction, in your brain, whether it been you too much testosterone when you were growing up, anything,
Excuse me?
like whatever this chemical reaction is you're talking about, it's making you do it. So just like you use that
Excuse
for
me.
homosexuality, anything.
Okay.
So why are you wrong?
Is it impossible for us to have a show in which somebody doesn't call us up and attempt to make this argument of, oh, if there's no big invisible man telling us what to do, then there are no rules and everybody can just go out there and engage in pure anarchy and chaos because nothing matters.
No,
because that's,
we know.
It is completely false.
You're misunderstanding what I'm saying. And what you talk about Christianity, we don't think about it to its logical conclusion, but what you don't understand from an atheistic point of view, from a materialism, we're chemical reactions. You can't sit there and say that anyone is control. You can't say what's right or wrong.
Yes, I can.
You may feel it. You may say.
Wait a minute. Yes, I can, and I do.
Was the Taliban wrong in what they did on September 11th?
Yes,
But
absolutely.
their society didn't think so.
Excuse me?
Their society didn't think so.
Yes, do you know why? Because they thought that their invisible friend was giving them...
Absolutely.
Right. So clearly religion isn't this big moral authority, is it? Because it's a thing that allows people to justify doing whatever they were going to do anyway.
But were they wrong?
Well, I sure think they were.
And the rest of the world agrees with them.
Wait, do you think they were wrong?
Absolutely.
Why?
Because I think what they did was against the Word of God.
But wait, their God. Wait a minute.
Right,
Wait a minute. And what makes your invisible friend more valid than their invisible friend?
Well, that's I agree with you, and that's a.
Wait a minute. Wait. You agree with me?
No, I'm saying.
Wait a minute. Just a second ago, you said you're invisible. Your whole argument. Your whole argument is my invisible friend is better than their invisible friend. That's how I know September 11th was wrong. No,
there's a difference.
You just said that the way you know September 11th was wrong was because your invisible friend said it was wrong, and your invisible friend's word is better than their invisible friend's word. Okay? That doesn't seem to me to be a very sound way to determine a moral stance on anything. If you're going to have these invisible sources of rules, with one saying, yeah, go ahead and bomb this building for the greater glory of me, and the other one saying, oh, no, this is against the rules of God to do this.
Right.
When they had a 5-page letter full of prayers, which mentioned the word God 88 times, by the way, telling them this is a good thing to do for the glory of our God.
Exactly.
Okay? So if you want to say that the reason September 11th was wrong was because your God didn't like it, then you need to prove your God exists and then establish the basis for the morals that make September 11th wrong according to him.
Okay, I'm you. Why do you think it's wrong? I sat there and listened to you say what the majority believes, what the majority of a society believes dictates what's right and wrong. Their society, Muslim extremists think they were 100% right.
Okay.
So does that make them right? You say no. So I say, okay, you say they're right. They say they're right. You say they're wrong. Who's right?
Look at the globe. A lot of other countries also agreed with us and said it sucks.
So then we
there is
world.
Cultural consensus, right?
Right.
I will explain this for the 8 billionth time.
No, I understand that, Mark. But what you're doing is you're saying that we strictly say what's right and wrong, determined by if the most people think it's right and wrong. Well, then it can change
hang on. And why is it that we have a cultural consensus about specific behaviors being right or wrong? Why is it that we have a cultural that sort of cultural consensus, where the majority
God gave us that. We innately know that killing is wrong. We innately know certain things are wrong.
Then why does God have people doing all this killing in the Old Testament if killing is innately wrong?
Well, if God created you, He can do what He wants.
Well, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Hold on. Hang on. Stop. Hang on. Wait a minute.
If God exists, let's just pretend you're me.
Well, wait a minute. Wait. If God existed, okay. Wait a minute.
He'll do whatever He wants to do.
Wait a minute. Wait. Think about what you're saying now. Now you're saying that if God existed, He can tell you to do what He wants.
Well, if your God, tell you why I think that happened in the Old Testament.
If your God told you to blow up a skyscraper with 2,000 people in it, would you do it?
I wouldn't do it because
Wait a minute, you just said if your God tells you, can tell you to do anything.
That's not what I said. You asked me the Old Testament, why did they do that?
Well, and you didn't want to answer that. You went into this whole thing of whatever God says goes.
You want me to answer your question. The reason the Old Testament that people killed is because God was using a certain people to enact His judgment upon a race. God does the same things now. He just doesn't do it the same way. In the Old Covenant, Jesus Christ hadn't come. Everything in the Old Testament prepares for the New Testament. What you have to understand is you have a people, barbarous people, 400 years, human sacrifice, worshiping idols, doing all these things. God said, stop. They didn't stop. They kept doing all these things. So God said, I'm bringing my judgment on the people, destroy them.
Okay.
God, being God, has the right to do whatever He wants. He is God.
So you've got this might makes right theology. Right?
What?
God can do whatever He wants because He's God. So you have this. So your theology is might makes right.
Whoever has the biggest stick wins.
Might makes right. That's your theology.
That's not the extent of it. But if
wait a minute, how can it not be the extent of it?
He's completely just in doing anything He does.
Why? Why is He completely just in doing anything He wants to do?
Because He's God. If He creates.
Wait a minute. What does that have to do with it? I mean, why can't a guy named Joe say, because I'm Joe, I can do whatever I want? Why is it okay for God to operate that way and not for Joe?
Because Joe's not God.
Okay, so being God gives you a pass to do anything at all.
Absolutely.
So that means and so is that because God's more powerful than everyone?
Because He's God.
Okay.
So the title?
Okay, so then if God said, I want you to blow up this skyscraper, wouldn't you have to do it because He's God?
Wouldn't do that. Can I tell you why?
Okay.
Okay, in the New Testament it says our battle is not against flesh and blood, principalities and powers.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. This gets to the question of you saying a God can do whatever He wants.
He can.
So let's say God wanted to test you like Abraham.
God wouldn't go against what He's already told us in His Word.
Wait a minute. How do you know that?
Against flesh and blood. Okay. My battle is not against you.
This is of course all academic because because until, of course, God's existence is proved, there's no point in this. But anyway, I'm trying to get.
I feel your pain because here's the thing.
Because you're trying to defend something that makes no sense.
No,
okay, you're saying God can do whatever He wants, but He can't do this or that.
No, He can, but He can't go against His nature.
Wait a minute. Wait. He can do whatever He wants because He's God, but He can't go against His own nature. You are contradicting yourself within the framework of a single sentence now.
God has no free will
at all.
So wait a minute. So if God can't go against His nature, does He not have free will?
Does God have free will?
Sure. If He can't go against His nature, if He has to do what He has to do. If God can't go against His nature, that means that His actions are determined for some reason. How is it impossible for God to go against His free will when just 10 seconds ago you said God can do whatever He wants because He's God?
Who decided God's will?
Yeah, I mean...
Who made up His character?
God is God. Nobody decided what God was or what His character was.
Then why couldn't God go against His own nature if He so chose? I thought He was omnipotent.
It's my character now to say killing little kids is bad.
Yeah.
Why can't He do that?
I don't understand what you're saying.
Okay.
If God makes up his own character, why can't he turn around tomorrow and say,
I don't think God
okay,
makes
killing
up
little
his
babies
character.
is bad?
God's character is what it is. Just
Yes,
like
where
God
did it
can't
come
lie.
from?
Yeah,
I mean,
and
God
how did it
says
get that
becomes
way?
true.
Where did it come from?
He's God. I mean, that's the whole point.
Okay.
How did life begin? I mean,
Okay, we're now into tautology territory, big time.
Exactly.
Yeah, right. So
And all this whole argument, and I'm not trying to argue. My whole point is, and this is something that I know I've called in probably 4 times, and we go back to the same thing because there's a problem in. And maybe you misunderstand the way I'm addressing it. Maybe I'm not putting it the right way. But when we
I'm
talk
certainly having
about
trouble understanding a lot of what you're trying to explain to us.
Okay, well, I'm just talking strictly morals. I am not saying you have to be a Christian to be moral because you may be the most moral man that I have ever met. That is not the point. My point is, from an atheistic point of view, from strictly saying we do what's best for the culture, what cultural says is right, that never gives us. You can never say someone else is wrong. What gives you the right?
Of course you can. Yes, you can.
Okay, well, let's just say slavery.
Yes, you can. I'll give you an example of it.
Slavery was okay, and then we decided it wasn't. So was it right before, or was it wrong before?
Well, first off, let me explain to you why it is that moral standards change in a culture.
But they don't change. That's just
Well,
the
no,
point.
they do change.
You just said they changed.
They
No,
do
I said
change
they don't change.
because, okay, no, there have been cultures.
Slavery was always wrong.
Hang on. Okay, well, when slavery was around, of course, it was biblically defended, and
Well, that wasn't true. That's not right.
no, Paul in his epistles does not exactly come out against slavery.
All right, he said slaves obey your master. But
Yeah,
slavery
right.
in biblical times was not slavery we had in the United States.
Okay, so then it was some sort of acceptable form of slavery?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so then there was a point in history.
If you were a prisoner of war, you became a slave.
Okay,
Every
so
7
then-
years the slaves were all set free the year of Jubilee. It was not the same slavery we had in the United States.
But there was a time in history then at which it was morally acceptable for
But was it
slavery to
right?
exist.
But was it right?
Well, by the standards of that time, it would seem so, correct?
No, just because they thought it was. Here's the crux of the problem. They thought it was right, but it wasn't right. That's why we don't have it now. It wasn't any more right then than it is wrong now. It was always wrong, and that's the point. That's the point I'm trying to make.
And that's
There
why
are
we
absolutes. There
And
are
that's-
absolute morals.
And that is why we had.
Wait a minute. Hang on. Wait a minute. Well, okay, absolute morals, which of course we disagree on that. But given what. So it's an absolute. First off, if it's a moral absolute that slavery is wrong, why is it that both Jesus and Paul in the Scripture advocate for slavery?
I don't think they did advocate for slavery.
Well, they do. I mean, they say,
Jesus say about
according to Jesus, okay, the ultimate goal of a, of course, they use the word servant, right?
Right.
Is not to gain one's freedom, but is to win the favor of your masters.
Right.
That is what slaves are supposed to do according to Scripture, according to both Paul and Christ in the New Testament.
Okay.
Okay. What I'm saying is their moral standards have in fact changed over time.
But have they? Well,
they have.
Or were they not always wrong?
But I'll tell. Well, first off, I can tell historically the origins of slavery. Slavery, bizarrely enough, actually began as a humane institution.
Correct.
It was a way for you not to kill your prisoners of war.
Correct.
So it began.
And reparations.
So it did have what you could consider to be altruistic motives in its beginning.
Correct.
Okay. So there are times, but here's the problem that when you try to argue for moral absolutes.
Right.
Well, what would be an example of a moral absolute? For example, do you think murder?
Yes.
Well, define. I mean, murder is what is murder? Is murder just the act of taking human life?
No.
Okay. So wait a minute. What makes it acceptable to take an act of? Are there any situations? Let me ask you this: Are there any situations in which taking human life would be acceptable?
Yes.
Such as
self-defense, war.
Okay. So wait a minute. But why?
Murder.
But you're taking a life in both cases.
Absolutely.
Okay. So.
But that's not what I said.
But wait a minute. But what is it that makes a killing at one period of time murder and not murder at another period of time?
Well, I think if I break into your house and kill you, that's murder. If you break into my house and you're trying to kill me and I kill you, that's not murder. That's self-defense.
So what is it? What is it that makes it though? So you're saying that the situation at hand determines.
No, it's not situational ethics. If that's what you're getting at.
Yeah. Well, okay. So wait. So what is it? What is it then? What is it then that
murder
makes?
Murder is murder. Self-defense is self-defense.
And what makes a killing murder versus self-defense?
I just told you.
Okay, in other words...
No.
Mens rea.
Right,
so if... to kill someone, evil intent, premeditation, all these things.
Right.
Taking of an innocent life.
Right.
Abortion.
It's all situations.
Yeah, so you're saying there are specific... There are specifics...
But the definition of murder is always wrong.
But there are situations in which killing a person isn't murder, and therefore it's acceptable.
Correct.
And there are situations...
Which would not be called murder.
Right. So then
let's not argue semantics.
the situation...
Is always going to be wrong.
The situation determines whether or not a killing is murder and therefore unacceptable. Correct. Right, so it's situational. Good, now let's move on.
Okay,
anyway...
That doesn't... Can murder be right if enough of us say it is?
No.
If we're getting too populated and we say,
that's not how it works.
Let's take all the homeless and kill them because we're running out of funds to feed everyone. Is that right?
That's not how it works.
That's not how it works right now.
It wouldn't be right.
In 1,000 years from now...
There you go. There's the problem. You said it wouldn't be right. But what if the majority of the world says, you know what, we're dying. We don't have the money to feed our families, but we have all these homeless people... And they don't have anywhere to live, and they're a drain on the economy.
Okay, well, hang on. We got to go into the next call, but I'll explain to you how these things are determined.
Okay.
The way in which cultures determine what laws we have and what is morally acceptable and morally unacceptable has to do with applying knowledge, and the knowledge that you're applying has to do with observing the consequences of actions and then making your rules accordingly. And this is something that has happened down through the centuries. Okay. I mean, how is it that we know that murder's a bad thing? Because you can see the consequences. The consequences of that action are observable.
Right.
And based upon that, people are able to determine, that has some serious negative effects. It is bad for society. In order for society to thrive, people need to coexist. Therefore, murder runs counter to our ability to have a society in which people coexist. That's how we make rules. We look at actions, we look at the consequences of actions, and we determine our rules based on that. And that has been happening for centuries, and it's still going on. That's why you have situations where, in one period of history, maybe slavery wasn't too frowned upon, as it is, of course, completely frowned upon today.
But it was still wrong then. That's my point.
Okay, well, I mean, I would agree with you that it's still wrong then, but you and I aren't products of that culture. Who's to say if we lived 2,000 years ago...
But our opinions wouldn't have changed the validity of whether or not it was right or wrong, and that's my point.
Well, I don't know. I mean, how can you know how...
If we're deciding what is right and wrong, 200 years ago, they all got together and said slavery is right for all these reasons. And in 200 years from now, it's going to be right for the exact same reasons. In 2,000 years, it's going to be right for the exact same reasons.
The point that I was trying to make was that
200 years later, we decided differently.
Yeah, I don't think that there's any.
And now we are applying our judgment to then and now and the future.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think
we may change in 100 years.
You can say, because of course we didn't live then, so I don't know that you can say, well, if I lived 1,000 or 2,000 years ago, I would have felt the same way that I do today. There's no way you can say that, and I think it's unlikely because everyone is influenced by their culture that they're in. Listen, we appreciate.
I agree with you.
Yeah, we appreciate your call.
And ultimate standard. It doesn't change. God never changes.
God never changes except when He does, right?
So you don't have to worry about the society changing their mind.
Right. Listen, we've got to move on. We've gone for a long time about this. Appreciate your call. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Take care. That went on for a while, but boy, was it fun.
Stop.
What?
There's someone on the line who wants to talk to Mark.
I think, sorry, that's impossible because he's
too late.
Too late.
So who is that caller, and we will get him on the line.
Which one?
Okay. Well, never mind. I'm just going to take, I'm sorry, the producer came in and told me some stuff, and that distracted us. But line 2 is Rob, and I think Rob has some responses to our previous caller. Mark. We have some things to say to Mark, so we'll see. Rob?
Yeah.
Hey, you're on the air. Sorry to keep you waiting, but sometimes they get boisterous.
I'm a first-time watcher of your program.
Get up.
And have you ever heard the saying, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words never hurt me?
Sure I have.
Okay, so if someone doesn't believe in God, how can the Pledge of Allegiance actually offend someone?
Well, it's a matter of, some people do take offense to that kind of thing. I think that, though, that the reason it's being brought up as a matter of debate is not so much that I'm so offended by saying that, as it clearly points to an unconstitutional endorsement of a religious point of view, that people can't be compelled to make some kind of religious statement. And the specific suit in question that Michael Newdout brought in California, and that was upheld by the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, it wasn't specifically, and this is something that the mainstream news media has not made clear all throughout the reporting of this event, is it wasn't specifically about just the phrase under God in the Constitution. It had to do with the fact that in his daughter's school system, there is a rule that the school board has made that there has to be some sort of patriotic exercise during the day, and the pledge will suit that purpose. So at that point, what happened was now you had students being made to say the pledge. And with the phrase under God in it, that created the problem of students being made to make a God oath, basically. And the government can't say, or no government body can say, you have to say this stuff. So that's what the suit was about.
I was under the assumption that he was saying that he was an atheist and he didn't want his daughter to grow up believing what they were teaching in school.
Well, I mean, shouldn't a parent have the right to determine a child's religious education? I think so.
A parent should have the right to put their kid in whatever school they want them to go to.
Yeah, but this is a public school.
Yeah, it's a public school.
Right.
Public school, taxpayer funded.
Public teachings.
If they wanted to go through a religious teachings, they could have gotten to a private religious school.
Yeah, there are private parochial schools.
Well, I think a lot of states are moving toward that, where you can, with school vouchers and things, where you can choose where you want to send your school. But if your kid happens to be in a particular school, I mean, like, there's some history books that don't teach the actual truth on history, but it's what is taught in school, and we have to accept it, whether we believe it or not.
No, we do not have to accept it.
We have to do something about it if it's not being taught correctly.
Exactly. If they're teaching something that's not true, we have to fix that. We don't just roll over and say, oh, well.
Yeah. There are hearings. In fact, I think they're going on right now throughout the end of the summer about textbooks.
Yeah.
And what there has been a problem of in the last several years has been these very fundamentalist religious organizations wanting to skew the content of these textbooks so that it reflects their particular religious ideology.
And nobody else's.
And nobody else's.
You know,
and this has to do with...
If it's about history and it's correct, then that's one thing. Like, I just found out recently that Jim Bowie was a black man. I didn't even know that.
Well, I didn't know that either. I'll check that out.
Well, facts.
Well, that could be interesting. It certainly makes that John Wayne movie a bit of a problem. I wonder if the new Alamo movie will correct that. But
I doubt it.
Yeah, but you're right. I mean, no. The thing is, as citizens, your input is allowed in terms of not just where you send your child to school, but also the kind of education and the quality of education they're getting in public schools, which are taxpayer funded.
Well, let me flip the script a little bit. Okay, so now this guy. I forgot his name out in California with the School Amendment thing. All right, now he is making it so that people who actually do believe in patriotic things and believe that
it's not patriotic things.
Now he's fixing it so they can't say it.
No,
they can say it if they want to.
Yeah, it's not patriotic things. Okay, it's not specifically patriotic things.
That's the label that they're putting on.
Well, right, but it is specifically has to do with the insertion of a religious statement in what should be a patriotic statement and equating the two. It's this tricky way they have of wanting to equate religious belief with patriotism, which the two things don't need to be equated.
Well, they're only trying to sidestep the issue that other people are trying to do away with some of their beliefs or try to change the way they
No. Those kids are able to get down on their knees before and after the pledge and pray until they're blue in the face.
Yeah.
I won't have a problem with that in the least.
Nobody is trying to strip...
As long as the government doesn't come in or teachers who are hired by the government and say, you will say this and you will pray this way to this God at this time for this reason.
Yeah. Nobody's trying to strip anyone's beliefs away. That is the propaganda line of the religious right that they keep hammering on. This is simply about making sure that the government isn't out there, as Ashley and Andy just said, telling everyone this is the religion, this is the religious point of view that's going to be expressed in this school, and this is how it's going to be done, and you got to do it this way.
Is anyone on the panel over 40?
I'm almost there.
Almost.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you remember when cartoons actually changed?
Cartoons actually changed.
The moral principle of cartoons. So, I mean, Popeye used to beat up Bluto, but that was just, Popeye.
Oh, you mean when they became more
violent?
Politically correct and...
No, I wouldn't call them politically correct.
Well, but that's how they are now. They changed and they're no longer fun anymore. Well, I actually am a cartoonist. I am a cartoonist. And I lament the days when you could have some, like dropping anvils on guys. What's that got to do with this thing?
Well, I consider the same era when prayer was taken out of school that a lot of these things have changed and they've actually taken 10 years for the generation that were watching those violent cartoons to actually be teenagers and mid-adults today.
Excuse
and
me?
we have that kind of...
What are you talking about?
Yeah,
you know those Looney Tunes that you're talking about, those were made in the 1930s and 40s.
Well, those were the safe cartoons.
No, those were the ones where, like, guys were getting blown up by dynamite and shooting themselves in the head, and, like, I've got them all on, tape and DVD and Laserdisc, and, I mean, I know when they were made. In fact,
maybe you should bring some and view them on your show.
I've got cartoons from the 1920s and that were openly racist. Bad stuff, and this is long before 1962, big guy. So yeah, America was actually a worse place to live before the 60s, believe it or not. Anyway, we appreciate your call. We got to run. We're running out of time.
All right, have a good one.
Take care.
Thanks, y'all.
That was a strange tangent. Okay. Something good. Pledge cartoons. Yeah, well, we'll see. Joe is on line 3, and it looks like he'll be our last caller of the day. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see. Joe, what? Joe?
Hello.
Hi.
Okay, I have a couple of things to say.
Go right ahead.
Okay. Did anybody happen to see that Bill O'Reilly show where he called America Judeo-Christian? He said America was a Judeo-Christian country.
I've heard him say things like that before.
Yeah, that's pretty stupid.
Yeah, the no spin zone spins like a merry-go-round.
Yeah.
It really does.
All right. But actually, I had an argument, which is like, well, here's my question. If you can't put the 10 Commandments or whatever religious things in schools, how come, like, say, businesses like Coca-Cola and Nike and shit like that can, like, go up there and put their advertisements all over the place?
Well,
basically the same thing.
Well, those businesses,
advertising institutions.
Well, first off, I don't know anybody. I don't know if anybody who wants to put a big Nike logo on the Capitol lawn.
No.
Actually, there are schools in Colorado.
Oh,
and
you mean
Florida
schools?
that sell the rights to.
Yeah, well, there you have, I guess. Oh, so you're talking about like fast food franchises opening up in school cafeterias?
No. There are. I think it's in Colorado Springs. I could be wrong on that. They actually, I can't remember what company it is. It's like a Coke company or maybe McDonald's. But they have their symbol on the sides of the buses and banners down the school halls.
So they're advertising.
They're advertising because
the television show where they show like the little news and then they show the commercials in between the news programs and things like that. Why can't they?
Well, that's private business. That's private enterprise. Television commercials on TV networks. That's not government. That's not government sponsored.
It's not. It's the television at the school though.
Yeah,
okay. It's the what do they call it? I don't remember.
Cable in the classroom?
Yeah, you go up there in homeroom and you watch like 15 minutes of news, which is actually 10 minutes of news and 5 minutes of commercial.
Okay.
Well, one thing, the Constitution doesn't say that Nike shall not put up ads in schools.
Yeah.
That's one part of it.
Yeah, but it's a government institution though.
It doesn't.
Yeah. And in public schools, that I would say that probably should.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we would have to. It's an interesting point you bring up, and I have to be honest with you. I don't really know if there's somebody out there, an attorney or somebody who knows legality about corporations openly advertising or buying advertising somehow in conjunction with public schools. I don't know what the legal situation of that would be, but it could be an interesting thing to find out.
Yeah.
But I mean, basically, I guess in my viewpoint, a religion is not too different from a corporation, except that.
Well, I agree with that.
And so it's basically the same thing. Get them all out. Is what I'm saying.
Anyway, okay.
Whatever.
Well, we'll see. We'll see if what that's all about, and if there's anything to it.
Okay.
All right, man. Take care. Thanks for calling.
Also, Coke doesn't say you'll burn in hell if you drink Pepsi.
Yeah.
So.
Well,
but the schools do that to supplement their
they would if they could.
budget.
Okay, last call for the day. It's Jeff D. online. Jeff.
Hey, guys.
Oh, hey, boy, you're loud today. Hang on. There we
go.
Hey, boy, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm on a cell phone today. I hope I cut in and out too much.
No, it's all right.
Wanted to respond to your long arguing about
morality.
Yeah, you're breaking up a bit,
Yeah,
Jeff.
real bad.
And
it sounds like we've lost him completely. Jeff, you there?
Yeah, we've lost him.
Gone.
Oh, yeah, we've lost him completely. Sorry about that, Jeff. Wait. Okay, no, we've lost him.
Yeah.
I'm sorry about
Yeah,
that.
that's gone completely.
Hey, listen, everyone, boisterous show today. All right, but we're here, if we didn't get to your question today, it didn't answer your question today, you can always contact us via the ACA website, atheist-community.org. Appreciate Andy coming on television today. And we are here every Sunday, 4:30 p.m., as well as reruns of this program that play Tuesdays at 4:30 p.m.
Yep.
And we thank all of our callers and all of our viewers. And we will see you next time. Remember, Christians, we don't hate you.
We just think you're wrong.
Hey, thank you, and bye-bye. Take care, everyone.
Have a good week, and see you next one.
Da-da-da. And we'll do our closing music. Be a little early. Oh, there goes our love rings. Well, there goes one. And another. Doing it. All right. Bye, everyone. Thanks for watching.
We'll time the end
Take
better next
care.
time.
See, sometimes I get it too late. And it cuts